Welcome to part two in my three-part interview of Neil Garrick-Maidment, the founder and executive director of the Seahorse Trust, or as I call him, the man saving seahorses. Before we get into the intro, I just want to tell you about the Seahorse Trust merch that I'm selling on Teespring. 100% profit to the Seahorse Trust. The link's down below. A really nice t-shirt and a really nice classic hoodie. 100% of the profit from that goes to the Seahorse Trust. So please help me support them. They do fantastic work. This part two of the interview, we really get into the work of the Seahorse Trust, what its achievements have been, how it operates, how it's funded, and the role of volunteers. Neil's team is all voluntary. He's the only person working full-time. He desperately needs at least a second person working full-time, but the funding just isn't there. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you other ways that you can help provide some cash, urgently needed, I would say, cash to the Seahorse Trust to allow them to grow. You've seen in part one, seahorses could be extinct. I think, was it 150 million seahorses taken per year? So it's organisations like the Seahorse Trust and their partners like Save Our Seahorses in Ireland, who they all work together. You saw that with the video in part one at the end. So anything you can do would be really appreciated. So let's watch the interview. It's fascinating. Let's talk about the trust. What led you to set up the trust? More importantly, how do you keep that passion going after all these years?
Passion, yeah, it's a difficult. I am absolutely passionate about the natural world. Like I said earlier on, my first word was zoo. I had a huge animal collection of toys when I was a youngster. I've worked with the natural world. I suppose keeping the passion going is the ultimate hope. I mean, I'm a naturally half glass full person. I'm not a negative person at all. I think it's the hope that somewhere along the line, humankind will not just do a token gesture to try and reconnect with the planet, we'll actually reconnect it properly. And we are seeing roots of that. We are seeing things happening. I mean, we got Studland Bay protected last year, which we'll talk about in a minute, but you know, there are things going on that are making us much more optimistic about the world. And it's vital, I think, that we wake up. If we don't wake up, we're all going to be losers. And one of the great things is you've got an amazing man like David Attenborough, and you've got a young woman, an incredible young woman like Greta Thunberg, two different ends of the generations, both saying the same things, and people in all generations are listening to those people. And I find that quite amazing, to be honest, that finally, and I'm pleased to say finally, people are actually waking up, which is great. Really
that must
good.
be a big motivator for you, because you must have had your ups and downs over the years. You're 62, as you said earlier. There must have been days when you thought, why am I doing this? No one is listening. So it must be...
Brian, there's been a lot of days like that, to be honest. I come in here some mornings into the office and I think, God, where do we go next? I get a report come through on the computer of another 10,000 seahorses that have been confiscated. I get reports in. I mean, we did a prosecution of a shop a few years ago in Brixham in Devon. He had 12,000 dead seahorses in his storeroom. He had shark in there. He had crocodile in there. He had all this other stuff, corals in his storeroom, and he was selling them like trinkets to tourists and what have you. Then you go through the whole long process of getting these people prosecuted and all the rest of it. And then that man got a £70 fine. He had his stock confiscated. And as he left court, he just laughed. He said, I'll make that 70 quid back in a day. And so when you see people like that, you've got to really think to yourself, we are making a difference. He was prosecuted. So he did have his stock taken away. And the generation of the education generation around that alerted a lot more people as to what was going on. And then you look at, beginning of last year, we won a judicial review. Just off Studland Bay, they had put in an exploratory oil rig right in the middle of everything being busy. It was within 100 yards of a known seahorse location. Seahorses are protected. That was one of the things that we managed to do. Seahorses are protected. They hadn't bothered doing an environmental impact assessment. And so what we did was we took them to court. We took the government to court, not the oil company, the government to court. And we said to them, you know, the law sucks, basically. You've got to do something about it. And it turns out that they're just been tick boxing all these oil rigs through. But now, as a result of that judicial review, which we won, we now have it that the law has changed and they have to do proper environmental impact assessments. So, you know, you'll come in one day and you're really depressed because, you know, the latest shipments come in and all these dead seahorses. Then you go up to the court and you win a big battle like that against the government. And you think, yeah, fantastic, you know, and then there are simple things. You go out diving and you see a seahorse there and you think, wow, that is pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
Or you
I
see
get
a
that
little
feeling.
bit of behavior that the seahorse is doing and you've never seen that behavior before. I mean, every single dive, I will learn something new about seahorses. And that is pretty remarkable to me. It really is remarkable. So that's what keeps me going.
Okay, we've just touched on some of the achievements of the trust, but what other major achievements?
Yeah, the major achievements of the trust, I mean, we've had quite a few over the years. I think one of the biggest achievements was getting seahorses recognised as an indigenous British species. Prior to us doing our database, which we set up in 1994, pre the trust being formed, part of the database, we started to get all this details and knowledge coming in about seahorses around the British Isles, and still we were being told, no, they can't be British seahorses. It's too cold for seahorses here. Can't be, blah, blah, blah. And yet we proved it quite categorically. And then in 2008, as a result of all the data that we've been gathering and all the knowledge we've been gathering, seahorses became recognized as a British species and they were fully protected under the Wildlife and Countryside Act. And since then, we've gone on as like Denmark. We're doing some work with colleagues in Denmark. And we've proven they're indigenous to Denmark. So it's quite interesting that seahorses are always perceived as this warm water animal, and yet more species of seahorse live in colder water than they do in warm water. There are more seahorses in warmer water, but the number of species are more in the colder water. And they tend to grow much bigger in colder water as well.
Yeah, so what sort of size do British seahorses get to?
Well, I have a model here in my hand. You might see this is just a rubber sort of artificial seahorse, and the British one, the spiny, is roughly about 17-18 centimeters from the top of the coronet to the end of the tail. So if you get it straight like that, the short snouted are just fractionally smaller. They're subtly adapted differently for their environment. So yeah, so they're about that sort of size.
All right. So when I look at the Seahorse Trust website, the focus seems to have been on the UK seahorse population. Is the trust looking to do more internationally now, or has it always had an international outlook?
We always have done, to be honest, Brian. You know, even though it was called the British Seahorse Survey, we have sightings coming in from all over the world. And we've recently renamed it the World Seahorse Survey. We have 49 different countries that have participated and sent in seahorse sightings, well over 3,000 sightings in total. And we hope to expand that a great deal more now. I mean, you know, seahorses from Bermuda to Australia to Denmark to just the bottom edge of Canada, all sorts of areas. So yeah, I mean, we've worked with partners all over the world, in Cambodia, in Sudan, and all sorts. I went to help set up a seahorse project in Cambodia a few years ago, and that's a sad story. Most of the seahorses have been completely trashed because of illegal trawling and stuff like that. But they're fighting back now. The local people are fighting back. So a great turnaround from an animal that had almost gone extinct to one that is now, you know, recognized for what it is and as a flagship for all the other things that are going on in the world. Just a short story about the Cambodian ones. A bit of behavior that I observed. Normally seahorses pair for a season, they set up territories, and then at the end of the season they move into slightly deeper water. In Cambodia, because the seabed is so badly trashed because of the trawling, the seahorses have nothing to hold on to. So what they're doing is they're holding on to pin urchins, pencil
Yeah.
urchins, and those urchins are constantly moving around. So that begged the question: well, if the urchins moving around all the time, how do they set up territories? And what we worked out is that they're not setting up territories at all. They're opportunist breeders. So any old seahorse that comes past, if it's ready for breeding, they'll breed. And that was a new piece of research that we'd done when we were in Cambodia. So, like I say, every time I go in the water, we observe something new.
Now, if seahorses are protected more and habitats are protected, will the populations rebound fairly quickly, or will it be a slow and laborious rebound?
Um, Interestingly, when the first lockdown happened in the UK here, we couldn't dive at Studland Bay, nor could all the boats go there and all the things that disturb the seahorses. When we came out of lockdown in May, I think it was, the first dive we had 16 individual seahorses on it. Now, that was a record. We'd never had that many in one go on that site ever before. The second dive, we had 17. The third dive, even though we had 1 meter of visibility, we still saw 2. And the fourth dive, we saw 21 different seahorses. And we worked out there were 46 individual seahorses on the site this year. Sadly, as soon as everybody started getting mobile on the boats again and dropping anchors on them and all the rest of it, the seahorse numbers dropped very, very rapidly. So yeah, earlier on in the year, when we came out of lockdown, we had on the first dive we had 16 seahorses, which was amazing. It was an actual record on that site. The second dive we had 17 seahorses. The third dive, even though we only had 1 meter of visibility, we still found 2 seahorses. And in the fourth dive, we had 21 seahorses, which was remarkable. We'd never had that many seahorses in one go before. And we worked out there were 46 individual seahorses on the site in total, which was amazing. But the problem was, as soon as we came out of lockdown, so did all the boats and the anchors and stuff like that. And the seahorse numbers dropped very rapidly. So we went from 46 known individuals on the site right down to 2 within a few weeks, and then none very quickly. So it just shows that left alone, or if measures are put into place, then seahorses can recover quite quickly. And we're actually in partnership with a marina company at the moment, and we're hoping by the 1st of April next year to put in 10 environmentally friendly moorings onto the site, so people don't drop their anchors into the seagrass.
Yeah.
They just attach the environmentally friendly mooring, and then they don't do any harm to the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real difficult balance to get, because we don't want to stop boats from going there, but traditional anchors and moorings actually cause harm. So if we can, in partnership with our friends at the marina, if we can put in measures to actually make sure by going there they're not damaging the seagrass, everybody wins. The seahorses win, the seagrass wins, the boat owners win. The whole thing is a positive thing. So, it's great. It's great news.
I think people don't understand the importance of seagrass beds. There's a project on in Bermuda at the moment, because their turtle population is huge, and the turtle population has decimated the seagrass beds. So they're actually now reseeding and protecting seagrass beds through cages to let them come back. Things like seahorses in particular.
It always begs the question: is why has the turtles devastated the seagrass? There must be a reason why there's an overgrazing. Nothing's ever quite as simple as it seems. But I mean, we have some reseeding projects here in the UK, but the quickest way to grow any seagrass is to take away the problems that actually cause the roots. The rhizome roots are in the seabed. Yeah. You know, the seagrass is there for a very, very good reason, because the habitat's completely right. And so if you take away the harmful effects, then it'll recover very, very quickly. I mean, although all the scars weren't gone, there was a good growth of seagrass in the early part of the year, which was amazing. So, you know, you've got to try every tool in your toolbox to try and recover the planet. We haven't got the luxury of time to waste, really.
That's true. Right, let's just talk a little bit about the trust and how it operates and things. How much does it cost to run the trust? That amount was doubled. How would you spend the money?
It costs about 45 to 50,000 pound a year to run the trust, even though we have a lot of generous people helping us, giving us different bits and pieces. There are still things like we have to pay £1,000 a year on insurance and things like this. And I take a very minimal wage from the trust, and if there's no money, I don't get paid. It's that simple. But if we could double that amount every year, then what we would do is, the first thing we'd do is employ an assistant, because there is so much work. And although we've got an incredible volunteer team, we could do with a second person at a trust to help with the work we're doing. There's too much work now. In a way, we're victims of our own success. And I'm not moaning, I'm really pleased we are. But, you know, we could do with more help, people full-time working with us and what have you.
How can people join the Seahorse Trust, and what does it cost?
Yeah, we have two ways of joining the trust. We have a formal membership scheme, which is £25 a year. And we also have an adoption scheme, which is the more popular of the two in some ways. And we ask for a minimum donation of £4 a month. If people can pay more, that's fantastic. But really it's a minimum of £4, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to generate any funds from it to sort of keep things going. And if people can just keep that direct debit going every year, that's what helps us, you know, knowing that there's money coming in. I mean, particularly with COVID at the moment, we have suffered because of COVID, not as badly as some of the bigger charities, but then it's proportional, you know, even though we've suffered a little bit, it still affected us, sort of thing. So that's the two ways. Even just becoming a member of our Facebook page. I mean, we've got over 3,300 people now on the Facebook page. Fantastic, because people are understanding about the work, they're understanding about nature, they're understanding about the seahorses, and people are changing their behavior because they're being educated more. I mean, education, either subtly or directly, is the most crucial tool that we have, to be honest.
How many members are there of the trust at the moment?
Well, it depends on how you measure it, really. If you measure it as just members then it's only a couple of hundred or so. If you look at the adoptions, then it's several hundred. But if you look at it with the Facebook page as well, and with our Twitter account, then you're looking at about 4,000 or 5,000. So it depends on how you look at it. And you very kindly bought a couple of pictures over Christmas. Yeah. Fantastic. And I was so pleased that you did. And I was so pleased you got both.
My sister loves them. That's one of the best Christmas presents she got, yeah.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a beauty. But Shelley, who kindly donated that picture, she was brilliant. She just wanted to do something to help the trust. She's not a member of the trust or anything like that. She follows us on Facebook, and she emailed me one day and said, what can I do to help? I want to do a couple of pictures to raise some money for you. And things like that really, really help, you know. And do you know what's fantastic is we often get messages from people, and unbeknownst to us, they've been working in different countries or in this country behind the scenes, doing stuff for us that we didn't even know that they were doing. And then they're suddenly saying, oh, we've been doing this, we've been promoting that, we've been doing this educational work, we've used your website as an educational tool and stuff like that. So it's absolutely amazing that people do that.
But if you could grow the membership to 1,000 or 2,000 paying £25 a year, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Do you know, if we could get, I don't know, even 5,000 just members, forgetting the adoption, just members, then it would be amazing. It would be incredible. and it's very difficult to grow because there's so much competition out there from other charities. But you know, the seahorses need people's help without a shadow of a doubt. And yeah, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4,000 people would be amazing. You know, absolutely incredible.
Well, there's a challenge.
Yes, definitely.
The trust is just,
you know, if everybody in the UK donated 1 penny every year to the trust, we would have no financial problems whatsoever.
That's
So
amazing, isn't
70
it?
million people in the UK, 70 million pennies, you know.
The trust is just about to. You just talked about education, a new seahorse ecology course. What's involved in the course, and who's it targeted at?
Yeah, it's targeted at anybody, to be honest, and all age groups, all sorts of skills. And what it was is that we have an online seahorse survey course that people can sign up to. And Becky, who is our volunteer director of education, she said, I want to do an ecology course for people so they can understand more about the animal itself, rather than just how to survey them, about the actual animal itself. So it's 12 parts, I believe, 10 or 12 parts. It depends on what the final piece is. It's an online learning course, and it's combined with voiceovers, video, and images as well. And you contact Becky, and the details are on our website or on the Facebook page, and she'll sign you up. And as soon as we're ready to launch, because it's imminent, almost any week now, then you can go ahead and do it. We have to charge for it because it's a way of generating funds for our research work and our conservation work, and we're charging £65 for the course, and I think that's quite good value for what it is.
Oh,
And
you'd
hopefully,
spend a lot more on a say a paddy specialty, a product
yes,
aware
yeah,
specialty.
with
So
that.
yeah, £65.
And
I think
the
okay.
nice thing about this course, O'Brien, is it's been written by people that actually work with seahorses and have spent a long time working with them. I mean, Becky's worked with us on our survey work as well. You know, we've had input from quite a lot of our volunteers. Obviously, I wrote a big section of it and what have you. So unlike some specialities, it has actually been written people with a lot of background to the species, as our survey course was. You know, we basically designed a lot of the survey techniques for seahorses. We advise the government now on, excuse me, on how to survey for seahorses in the wild. In fact, our survey protocols are used by the Marine Management Organization for anybody that's applying for a seahorse license. So, you know, we're very proud of all that, to be honest.
Okay, well that leads into my next question, because you just mentioned about volunteers, and I know the trust relies heavily on volunteers. How many volunteers are there, and what sort of work do they do for the trust?
We have at any one time around the world probably about 3, 4, maybe 5,000 volunteers. And you know what's amazing is that we don't know a lot of them are actually doing work for us until they email in and say, "Oh, I've been doing this," and it varies. I mean, from people in Italy that are just surveying their local seahorse area and they're working with us. They might have got a group together, a group of several hundred together, which has happened recently. You know, we had a lady in Spain, she had set up her own survey group, to people doing education work as well. We have a lot of people going out, talking to schools, just spreading the word. So it's quite a variety of stuff. We would like some more volunteers that have skills in fundraising to write applications for us. We're a bit short on those at the moment, but also volunteers in the form that we work a lot with commercial companies, and they very often will have their employees do stuff for charity, and very often those employees choose us as their charity, and they'll do education things, or they'll do a fun run to raise some money, or they'll talk to local fishermen. You know, there's a huge amount of knowledge in local fishermen around the world. You know, if we got a volunteer in every single country in the world talking to their local fishermen and asking them about seahorses, we would have so many more sightings and so much more knowledge, which would help us understand the seahorses more, which in turn would help us protect them. So volunteers come in on all shapes and sizes and all skills, and you know, even those that don't think they've got any skills at all. I mean, a lovely one this Sunday that's coming up, Sunday the 10th. there's a gentleman called Kenneth Stevens, who is a well-known poet, and he's on Poetry Please, I think it's called, on Radio 4 on Sunday, reading a poem about seahorses. And, you know, Kenneth contacted me and said, when I was looking into sort of researching about this poem that I'm reading, he said, I came across your site. He said, I want to do more. So I sent him a whole load of leaflets up, and he's already been out and about around the Oban area in Scotland, delivering leaflets, talking to people. So even things like that. And I found out from an email from him this morning, it's not just him, he's gathered a number of people to do it as well. So, you know, simple things like that make a huge difference, enormous difference.
That's brilliant. Coming back to the volunteer for writing for grants and stuff, do you actually know where you want to get the money from, and it's just someone you direct to actually fill in the forms and
yeah, it depends on which project we're trying to fund. Some we do have sources that we could apply directly to, but we need somebody to write the applications. It takes a long time to write an application. Others, we need them to search for the sources of funding and write the applications for us. But also, what we would really like is commercial companies to volunteer. I mean, it's like Beauty Kitchen. They sell through Holland and Barrett. They make sustainable plankton-based face creams and products like that. They volunteer a part of the percentage. I think it's 1p from every sale to our work. So, you know, and their whole team are involved in learning about seahorses, educating. There's a great video about Stan the seahorse they put together and things like that. So volunteers take all sorts of shapes and forms, to be honest. They're not just people that will knock on doors or go diving. They're doing all sorts of things all the time. I mean, if I had an appeal, I would appeal to every company that could support a green project to support us, to be honest. Even if they gave us a tiny percentage of a sale of whatever product or service they're doing, you know, lots of small companies make a big difference. You know, that really is crucial to us. And yes, I can do it voluntarily. And, you know, as I said right at the very beginning, if there's no money, I get no pay at all. I work for £4.12 an hour, but I do very, very long hours. And, you know, I also pay for a lot of the stuff for the trust out of my own pocket. You know, but even if there was no money there at all, I would still do the work and try and fund it some other way, as I have done all my life, because it's crucial. We have to do something. We have to change people's attitudes, and we have to make a difference. We are literally at the final second of the last hour. Yeah. You know, if we don't do something now, we are lost, not just as all the wildlife around us, but us as a species will be gone. What a lot of people don't realize is the natural world, we humans are dependent on it. You know, and if you envisage it as a wall with bricks, and each brick represents a species or a habitat, and you take the bricks out, slowly there'll be so many holes in that wall will collapse. And that is at the state we're in at the moment on the planet, that we're just about to see that wall come down. And that's a frightening thing.
Yeah. Can you remind me again, how many seahorses are taken from the wild each year?
There are three main trades. There are the curio trade, the medicine trade, and the aquarium trade. And we estimate about 150 million seahorses per annum taken for those three trades alone. On top of that, we've got loss of habitat, pollution, and sort of wastage into the water. So a lot of pressures on seahorses.
So the problem, it's just like the sharks. It's you know, sharks are getting a lot of publicity. Seahorses aren't, but there's a lot of similar things there, right?
The similarities are, it's not just sharks, it's pangolins, it's seahorses, it's
sharks are getting lots of media attention nowadays. That's where I was coming from.
They're getting a huge amount of media attention, but it's great because you protect the sharks, you protect protect that trophic cascade that goes underneath them,
Yeah.
being an apex predator. And seahorses really are an apex predator in their own habitat. Yeah, we need more publicity.
Okay, talking about research universities and the like, do you cooperate? Do you have any interest from universities for research into seahorses?
We do. At the moment, we're working with Southampton University on our project at Studland. We're working with Portsmouth University on a project with a marina company. They're establishing habitat underneath the pontoons in their marinas. So we're working with the university, with the marina company. We've worked with Exeter University in the past. We've worked with Plymouth University, Bangor University. So yeah, we were, and Bournemouth. We were at Bournemouth as well. So quite a lot of universities as well.
Well, who would have known that they've achieved so much? A small little charity running on a relatively small budget, has achieved all of that. I just, it bowls me over. So Neil and his team, we have a debt of gratitude to them. They're not a big fancy charity. They're not in the limelight every day. They're just there working away hard, achieving the best results they can. Join me next time for part 3, where we talk about how to dive with seahorses and what we divers can do specifically to help prevent the extinction of seahorses. So how can we help the Seahorse Trust do more of their fantastic work? Well, there's several ways we can contribute. They've got several schemes. You can become a member of the Seahorse Trust for £25 British per year. That's one way you can do it. They have an excellent Adopt a Seahorse scheme, which is a monthly subscription where you adopt a seahorse and they send you a regular newsletter, they send you a little fluffy seahorse, they send you a fact sheet and an adoption certificate, and that starts at £4 a month. I've got one, a Seahorse Jubilee. I pay £5 a month, and that provides continuous steady income to the Seahorse Trust, and that's probably their preferred fundraising method because it's consistent, it's there every month. You can also make a one-off donation through PayPal or just a bank transfer. There's details on their website. And my own little initiative, I've just started a Teespring store, and I'm going to develop a range of seahorse t-shirts and hoodies and things. The first ones are already up. You can see them right here. There's a link down below, and 100% of the profit from any seahorse merch from my site will go to the Seahorse Trust. So join with me and help me support Neil and his wonderful team of volunteers. Let's try and double their budget and give them the funds they need to grow fast. If you go to my store at Teespring, you'll see these 2 seahorse items of clothing, a t-shirt and a hoodie, which we've designed to spread the message about not using bright lights with seahorses when diving. With 100% of the profits of both these items go to the Seahorse Trust. So please buy them and help me support Neil and his team.